Welcome to Clued in Mystery. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Brooke, and we both love mystery.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
I'm great.
Well, today I've got a little treat for you.
Oh, Sarah, I know what that's from. And all it takes is a few notes of that familiar piano tune to clue us in that another good mystery is about to start. Today, we celebrate Murder, She Wrote, a show that changed the landscape of television and influenced the trajectory of mystery fiction. In the early 1980s, the U.S. television network CBS was looking for a way to revive its Sunday night lineup. On a whim, they ran an Agatha Christie movie and easily came out on top of the ratings. Thinking it might be a fluke, they tried it again several weeks later and took the top spot. This proved to network execs that the viewing public wanted more good mysteries, and they began brainstorming series ideas. Now, male leads in detective shows were still the norm, with shows such as Magnum PI and Miami Vice being popular in this era. But the success of that Miss Marple movie made them wonder, could a female character carry a mystery series? They asked network writer Peter Fisher to come up with a script to test it out. His main character was a retired English teacher and author turned sleuth named Jessica Fletcher. The network's first choice to play this experimental character was Jean Stapleton, and Stapleton is best known for her TV role as Edith Bunker on All in the Family. But after reviewing the script, Stapleton didn't really like the character and asked for many changes in order to accept the role. The writers felt sure of their lead character, so they decided to look for another actress. And they had heard that stage star Angela Lansbury was interested in breaking into television, so they sent the script to her. But at the same time, Lansbury was being pitched a sitcom role by TV legend Norman Lear, and CBS assumed that they were just going to lose her to Lear. But they were pleasantly surprised when within days Lansbury accepted their offer to play Jessica Fletcher. In an interview that I watched, Lansbury said that there was just something she immediately liked about the character, and she knew that she could work with it and make it her own.
I can't imagine Angela Lansbury in a sitcom, and I can't imagine anybody else playing Jessica Fletcher.
Right. And when I heard that the idea originally was Jean Stapleton, I thought, oh my goodness, that just doesn't work in my brain at all.
No.
But Lansbury was 59 years old when the show began, and really the perfect age to play this retired teacher turned mystery solving heroine. But she vowed that she would never play Fletcher as a dowdy old woman. And this is in large part based on the fact that Lansbury had this career long history of being cast in frumpy roles and sidekick roles much older than her actual age. And so at this point, she was not going to play a new character as anything but, active and stylish and just a real go getter of this middle aged woman. Murder, She Wrote was an immediate hit. It gained top spots in the ratings for years to come, and it really changed the landscape of television. I mean, the very next year after its release, The Golden Girls, another show starring older characters, it premiered just 1 year later and became this major hit. And, I would say that Golden Girls probably never would have been if it weren't for the big success of Murder, She Wrote and Angela Lansbury on screen. And then let's not forget the continuing trend of older sleuths. I mean, we've got the Thursday Murder Club and Only Murders in the Building. In addition to that trope, the show also popularized other aspects of cozy mystery that I'm sure we'll talk more about, Sarah, like author as sleuth, small town strife, quirky characters, just so many things became popularized that we see over and over again now. Over the 12 years that the show ran, there were 268 murders solved, 2,000 guest stars, many of which were older stars that Angela kept working by having them on her show. and 12 Emmy nominations for Angela Lansbury. She never won, but she was awarded 2 Golden Globes for her work on the show. And although it's been off the air for years, Murder, She Wrote remains a cult classic. There's merchandise featuring the iconic sleuth, computer games, and websites. And thankfully, reruns continue in syndication, bringing new generations of fans to the show. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but I still get excited when I hear Lansbury say tonight on Murder, She Wrote.
Such a quirk of the show, right? This little like preview that happens before.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I don't know that any other show I mean, other people have probably copied it, but I can't really think of that, and that, a little snippet of the plot is given away to hook you
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you'll see that like next week or in the next episode, right?
Mhm.
But you don't, I can't think of many other shows that have a trailer just before the show starts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it works. They're, on the very first episode. So I kind of previewed that. I didn't watch the entire thing because I had seen it before, and then I also watched the last episode. I kind of bookended it this week. But um, she breaks the fourth wall, and she's talking to the
Yes.
audience and telling them about, like basically the backstory, how she got here and what's going on. And I just love that episode so much because it's so cozy. It really is. And
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
get an immediate feel for who this character is, and like I would just like want to be her friend.
So I love that you watched the first and the last episodes. I couldn't find it streaming here in Canada, so I had to rely on the library and borrowed um, season 7, the DVD set of season 7, because we still have a DVD player. And that's right in the middle, right? Because it ran for 12 seasons.
Mhm.
Um, and after we watched the first episode, my husband and I turned to each other and we were like, well, it still stands up. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty good. Um, and I think I watched 4 or 5 episodes from that season. And what struck me was that each one was really different. So there was one that was in Cabot Cove. There was one that I think they call it a bookend episode where she introduces it, but the whole story features someone else doing the investigating,
Mm.
right? Like she's not actually involved at all. It's this insurance investigator who I guess just, reading a little bit about the show appeared in a few episodes,
Mhm.
maybe 1 or 2 each season or one each season or something like that. Um, there was one episode, I think, where she was in San Francisco
Yep.
and maybe another when she was elsewhere. And so I just thought it was really interesting the way that it it didn't get stale. And I think that they did those various styles of episodes throughout the show. It was
Mhm.
never just like 20 episodes of Cabot Cove. And
Right.
so I really liked that.
I think that that was a smart way to because uh, in some of the research I did this week, I learned like if there were still so many murders in Cabot Cove that it would have like blown away the actual city in the world that has the most murders. It would be by far the biggest murder capital in the whole world. Um, but it was a way to break that up, and it worked because she was this jet setting, like very recognized author. So she was going to book signings and she was being, wined and dined by this editor and this and that. So it gave her an excuse to travel. One episode, and I didn't see it this week, but I've seen it in the past, is even historical. And I can't recall how that happened. I can't remember how Jessica ends up in the past, but it's like set in colonial America.
I love that. Um, there's also a crossover episode with Magnum PI that I didn't see that because I think it's in an earlier season, but I think I'm gonna have to put my name on the hold list at the library and get that season because I think that would just be amazing to watch.
Yeah, that sounds so much fun. And I was reminded of how spunky she is and like
Totally.
how like sophisticated, like she really did stick to that part of like not wanting to be a dowdy old
Mhm.
granny. She dresses to the nines. She always got has like a brooch. Her hair is always beautiful. Her makeup is very pretty. Like
Yeah.
she is like what we all aspire to be when we're like a retired person, right? She's just so just sassy and chic.
Well, and the other thing that struck me, so yes, I totally agree with what you just said. She's always looking very sharp. Um, but she's also very kind. She's not biting in any of her comments. She's firm, right? There's um one character who's the newspaper publisher in Cabot Cove, and he keeps asking her out.
Mhm.
And she is, pretty firm with him when she refuses, which I thought was very good. But I just really liked the way that she spoke to other people and the way
Yeah.
that she kind of would give the bad guy a bit of the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly. Yeah. She definitely had I liked the way that they had her interrogate people. And I don't know how much I did read that, over time, Angela Lansbury really influenced the character of Jessica Fletcher. Like there's a melding there where it's kind of hard to know who is who. But I know at least initially, I liked the way the writers um made her do those interrogations because there was such a soft touch.
Mhm.
And like she would not confront, like you could see the look in her eye because she's such an amazing actress that she doesn't believe what they're saying, but she never confronts them right there. She just kind of tucks away that bit of information. And I feel like that is such a something we see over and over now in cozy mystery, right? Versus the detective fiction that everyone had seen where he would have like you're lying or maybe
Yeah.
confronted the bad guy. Because she's an amateur sleuth, she's just like taking it all in. And I really love that. Like you said, very kind and kind of soft in the way she goes through her investigations.
Yeah, she's assertive, but
Mhm. True.
not aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has this wonderful life where she knows all of these people. She gets invited to these fantastic parties, and then she just has her regular life in Cabot Cove where she, eats at the diner and
Rides her bicycle.
rides her bicycle and chats with the police sheriff who seems to tolerate her,
Mhm.
you know, in inserting herself into various investigations. It started when I was quite young. I think it was 1984. Was that? Well, yeah,
Right.
because it's 40 years, right? Um, so I was a little bit too young to be watching Murder She Wrote. Um, but by the time it finished, like I would have been familiar with it, and I feel like um, I would have really enjoyed watching it with my grandmother.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't have any clear memories of that being something that we did together, but I think she would have enjoyed it. Uh, and now I do really want to watch all of the seasons. Like I'm really disappointed that it's not super easy for me to get it here in Canada.
Exactly. And that was one of my questions because, I grew up in the US, obviously. I live in the US, and it was such a big deal. I even said to my husband, like, do you remember watching Murder She Wrote? And he's like, oh, yeah. I mean, he's like, I don't think it was like anybody's like favorite show in my household, but of course it was on and, we would watch it. It was just like such a popular show. Um, and I wondered like if it had that popularity in Canada when it was on the air originally.
Yeah, I think it did. And remember it was a totally different time in terms of what we would have had access to in terms of television, right?
Mhm.
It was on at, I don't know, say 8 o'clock, on, I think it was Sunday nights.
Yes.
Um, and there probably wasn't much else. NBC might have had something. Um, and here in Canada, we would have had CBC. I don't know what we would have had at that time of night. But there just like there wouldn't have been much else, and we didn't obviously have streaming.
No.
Um, Probably even limited VHS tapes at the time. So it
Yeah.
really would have been the only thing for people to watch. So it's not surprising that the numbers were so high, right?
Yeah.
Sunday evening is uh, you know, a popular time to just unwind and kind of get ready for the week, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is much more difficult these days for a show to take off like that because it's so plentiful. But same. We had like basically 3, maybe 4 networks, so that's how many choices you had. Sunday night, somebody's probably playing a football game in the US. So if you needed, something to watch on Sunday night, yeah, you had about 3 or 4 choices, and so it was much easier for a show to really get traction, and especially a great show, right? That's not
Hmm.
it's not saying that it didn't deserve those ratings.
So, Brooke, not only did Murder She Wrote kind of open the door to more cozy type television programming, I think it also opened the door to more cozy books. So, if you remember when we talked about cozy mysteries and Lilian Jackson Braun, she had published a few books in the 1960s and then nothing again until 1986. So, the mood was really set for people to have this appetite for more cozy type stories.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that timing is just spot on, isn't it? When the viewing public and mystery fans were really liking that type of cleaner, more lighthearted mystery, then we started seeing the books coming out like that too. And now the subgenre is still going strong.
Oh, definitely. I think it's one of the more popular subgenres if you're looking in the mystery space.
Hmm.
You mentioned Only Murders in the Building and the Thursday Murder Club, and there's a couple of other things that I can think of that feature older sleuths. But between Murder She Wrote and the last 3 or 4 years, I feel like there wasn't a lot of opportunity to celebrate or see older characters in these kind of roles.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think right then, like I said, the Golden Girls came, which the idea of having a full cast of all 50 plus women, right? So it was women
Mhm.
and older. That was a real change in television. But I agree. I feel like it probably slipped back into some of the other stereotypes. And we're seeing like a big resurgence again. And I don't know if it's the age of our population and many of us, like more and more people are having like that second act. And that was something I really loved about the parallel between Jessica Fletcher and Angela Lansbury. Angela Lansbury had been a working actress, a stage actress, and had some amazing hits on like Broadway. But as far as being a recognized celebrity, she really didn't have that until this show. And then she became this
Mhm.
huge star in her late 50s and early 60s. And, that's kind of what happens to Jessica in the story, too. She had been an English teacher and, lived in small Cabot Cove. She just had this sort of mundane life. And then she gets this great mystery author career and that then blossoms into this sleuth. So there's a lot of parallels there to coming into your own later in life. And so I think our population is really celebrating that, as you said, in this decade.
You mentioned some of the awards that the show got, and I think it's really interesting that it received a Edgar Award twice for 2 different episodes for the best episode in a TV series, um,
I did
which
not
I
know that. That's
yeah, I
fantastic.
know. Um, and other programs that have received that, Magnum PI in 1981, Hill Street Blues in 1982. So this would have been probably one of the first very cozy um,
Hmm.
television programs to get that kind of award. Later on, there's Masterpiece Mystery that receives awards, and Law and Order gets several actually. But yeah, I think it's I love that it got an award from what I always consider to be like a literary award body.
Right. And specifically mystery too. So that's
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
great. I also love that.
Brooke, in your introduction, you talked about some of the spin-offs from Murder, She Wrote, which is always a sign that something is really popular. And one of those was the novels.
That's right. Yes. So Donald Bain wrote 45 novels, their Murder She Wrote series, and then all sorts of different stories, very similar to the way we've talked about the show being so varied. The novels are very, wide range of topics. But Donald Bain was the author, but J.B. Fletcher is listed as the co author. So we get this really awesome meta thing happening.
I
And
love it.
I know. And I got to thinking that if this were happening nowadays, I think it could have even been bigger. Like Jessica Fletcher would have had her own Instagram account and she would have been, like interacting with certainly this wouldn't be Angela Lansbury doing this, but the company, right, could make Jessica
Hmm.
Fletcher interact in all sorts of ways online to get that meta feeling because here she is, she's a mystery author, right? And I just thought that was really clever.
And are they still publishing the books? Do you know?
I believe so. I think that the most recent was a Christmas novel, but don't quote me. But fairly recent. The novels didn't end when the show ended; they continued on.
Oh, I think that's fantastic.
I'm also always struck by how many young people are into Murder She Wrote, and I think that is credited to the fact that we still have them in syndication. But if you look online for Instagram accounts or websites, you'll find people that are in their 20s and 30s who just really love Jessica Fletcher. There's merch and shirts and really cute, graphic design, like what would Jessica do? And I just think that's just so great.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I think that just speaks to the warmth of the character.
I do too. And she's somebody that really is uh, someone you look up to. And I mean the idea of what would Jessica do in a lot of different ways. Like we talked about, she stayed excited about life and she was spunky and she took great care of herself and was sophisticated and sharp all through her years. So not only in the mystery sphere, but in life in general, we could all be a little bit more Jessica.
I love it. Well, Brooke, it has been so much fun discussing Murder, She Wrote. And I think this conversation has just reignited my love for this show. And I might have to just order all the DVDs.
Put it on your Christmas list, Sarah.
Maybe.
Yeah, this has been great. This is like such a iconic mystery show and we just want to celebrate, its 40th anniversary. And thank you all for joining us to do the same. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Sarah, and we both love mystery. Clued In Mystery is written and produced by Brooke Peterson and Sarah M. Stephen. Music is by Shane Ivers. If you liked what you heard, please consider telling a friend, leaving a review, or subscribing with your favorite podcast listening app. Visit our website at cluedinmystery.com to sign up for our newsletter, The Clued In Chronicle, or to join our paid membership, The Clued In Cartel. We're on social media at Clued In Mystery.